BORTLE here, back from the LCS 14 event of the online format. We have here Jibriel returning to the channel, and he topped this event, getting top 16. My goodness, with Drytron being the only Drytron deck in the top 16. Very amazing. Yo, Jibriel, please say what's up.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Jib, and I got top 16, 12th after Swiss with the Drytron deck.
That's just crazy. It must mean that a lot of people were expecting Drytron, and they had a pretty well-equipped side deck, right?
Yeah, I definitely got drolled a bunch during the weekend. I got Psycho Readered a couple of times.
So, what made you decide to play Drytron in this event, man?
I usually like to switch it up and play different decks like every event pretty much. And when Drytron first was revealed, I've done like a couple profiles on your channel, like even on your channel of different people's Drytron decks, and I've always loved the deck, but I never like played it in a tournament. It was just like low on my list of decks to play because it was so heavily sided for. With the new support that came on Lightning Overdrive, I think that the deck got a big boost, and people were definitely hyping up the Tri Brigade Zoo deck. And I thought this deck's ability in order to like grind pretty well with the Tri Zoo deck and playing cards that you'll see in the main and being able to search Lancey, I thought this deck would have a really good Tri Zoo match.
Well, before we start the actual deck profile portion of this video, would you like to do some shoutouts?
First and foremost, shout out to my team and sponsor, Team Playmakers. Also, shout out to my main server with all the homies, TMW. You guys already know who you guys are. Shout out to Shu Ping and Ruben for helping me with the deck theory and tech cards. They were definitely a big help. So yeah.
I'm already seeing some spicy tech in the main deck, so go ahead, man, and take it away.
Okay, so the first card in the deck is the Drytron boss monster himself. Drytron Meteor's Draconids. Basically, it's a level 12 machine ritual monster, and you can ritual summon it, and it can attack all your opponent's monsters, and it can't be targeted. And quick effect, you can banish basically monsters whose total attack equals 2,000 or 4,000 to send that many cards on the field that are face up to the grave. So it's just a nice boss monster, and is basically your turn 3 play and your way to kill on the turn 3. Next, we play 3 copies of Diviner. It's the new card that came out, Lightning Overdrive. It's basically like probably the best support that the deck could have asked for. It's Manju slash Dawn Knight in the same card. It's really strong. It has level modulation, so it's basically full. Also becomes a level 6, and it helps you go into Beatrice, and it helps bridge all your combos. For the actual Drytron monsters, we played 3 Alpha, 3 Zeta. They're the turn 1 Drytrons. Alpha searching monsters, Zeta searching spells, ritual spells. Then we play 2 and 2. We play 2 Delta and 2 Gamma. These are the turn 3 Drytrons. They allow you to keep up your advantage and plus really hard on your turn 3 and kill your opponent. For the fairy cards, play 2 Eva, 3 Orange Light, 1 Benten, and 1 Ultimateness. 2 Eva, 3 Orange is pretty standard. They're like your main negations, and they keep up your hand advantage. 1 Benten being like the best ritual monster in the entire game. Hopefully, it like comes to like more than one on the next ban list, but that's kind of a stretch. This card is broken. And then 1 copy of Ultimateness is basically your win condition. This card, I've seen some people playing Perfection, but like this card is better than Perfection, especially because where the format is going right now, where a lot of people are playing Zodiac. And this card can negate the special summon of monsters where Perfection can't. So like in a Zoo matchup, they're just allowed to make a 6 material Zeus against your Perfection, and you can't really do anything about it. Where this card can negate special summons, which is really powerful against cards like Pankertrops, Ultimate Conductor, like Alpha, things like that, and like any Zoo XYZ and Zeus. For the spells, we play the 2 like cards that help push your combo through. Instant Fusion, Call By. It's pretty standard. Instant Fusion is a little better than Call By because it gives you a level 1 monster on the board, and it also can help you deal with a card like Appaloosa where Call By doesn't. For consistency, we play 3 copies of Emergency, 3 copies of Nova, and 1 copy of Fafnir, and then we also can throw in 1 copy of Foolish Burial. These are basically just all your extra copies of all your Drytron monsters. They make sure that this deck really needs like 2 or 3 cards to combo. Usually like 2 cards to combo, then the third card to play through hand traps. in this build, unlike a lot of other builds, I'm not playing any secondary ritual engine. I'm not playing any copies of Fool, any copies of Ida 10. I don't think those cards are necessary. And when I talked to Shu, we basically kind of both agreed that like summoning like a Ida 10 or summoning a Fool, you can basically just summon Ben 10 instead. It plays better into Nibiru because usually your opponent, if you're playing Ida 10 or playing Fool, they'll Nibiru once you ritual summon out the bridge ritual monster to make the Beatrice. But if you ritual summon out a Ben 10 and they need to be there, then they just give you an advantage. They'll wait until after you summon your Beatrice, usually. In this version at least, in order to have a chance to nib you. And then usually if you're summoning Beatrice, you're sending Eva to add orange diviner. 2 of the ritual spell. So for certain combos in the deck, you need 2 copies of the ritual spell, and it's just nice to have because every time you open up the ritual spell, if you have like alpha plus like emergency or alpha plus nova, you don't have to grab the zeta. You can just like grab like really the best 2 combination. If you open the ritual spell as alpha plus delta, that's like incredibly plus because you're resolving Ben 10 and you're drawing a card and you already have the ritual spell, so it's like incredibly plus. Now for the kind of degen part of the deck, like I've already gotten some criticism about it. Um, but like it's pretty funny. 3 copies of Mystic Mind and 1 copy of Metaverse. The theory behind 3 copies of Mystic Mind and 1 copy of Metaverse isn't, oh, this is a stall deck and we're just gonna deck people out. No, Drytrons as a deck is like a true combo deck, like a combo wombo deck. Like you kind of need all the cards in your hand. All the cards in your hand are really like moving pieces, and the way to play the deck is you have to like sequence your moving pieces in a way that allow you to combo off as efficiently as possible and play through as many cards as possible. So the deck doesn't reward you for playing hand traps. Like other combo decks, like a deck like Dragon Link is super like linear in a sense that like 2 cards kind of get you to where you need to go because the card pool is so like extensive, and like the combos are very resilient to hand traps to the point where you're allowed to play hand traps yourself. But on the other hand, this deck, like every Drytron requires you to send another card from your hand or field to the graveyard, so they're like naturally you go neg with the deck, and then like if the combo resolves, then you gain back all that advantage and some more. So you want to play blowout cards instead of hand traps in the deck because you're already going to be low on hand advantage. So a card like Mystic Mind is just a card that like it's a pseudo win condition against certain decks. They don't have an out, and that's just a plus. Like Trizu, they only really have 1 out in the deck, which is Imperial Order if they're maining it, and if not, then they get decked out. Oh well. But it's mainly just a card that's here to be paired with the next card, Forbidden Dropless, for when you go second, in order to just stall you for turns when you're not able to full combo.
Would you like to run down the extra deck?
Yeah, so for the extra deck, starting with the fusions, play 1 Entis. It's just a going second card that you could send off of Diviner to pop a card. 1 Millenniumize for your instant fusion. 2 Herald of the Arclight. This is something that shout out to Shu, he convinced me to play. I was only playing 1 Herald of the Arclight before, and I was playing another card that did come up this weekend, and I was sad that I took it out. But the second Herald was definitely better. So the theory behind the second Herald is when you full combo and you set up ultimateness with 5 to 6 interruptions, sometimes you don't use all of your interruptions. And the way that people like usually like if you're not playing the second Herald of the Arclight, like you might feel like on the outside it might look like the Drytron players in an advantageous position, but they're not really because all they have in hand is a bunch of fairies and they use their 1 Herald during the regular combo, so they're technically top decking also because they have to top deck another Drytron name, which you basically have like a 90% chance of drawing into another playable card to combo. But like in that other 10%, then like you're kind of scrambling because like you've used 4 or 5 of your interruptions. You only have 2 or 3 left, or like 1 in some cases, and you can't play because you didn't draw a playable card. But if you play the second Herald in those situations, you want to use the fairies in your hand and keep a diviner. Like diviner should be the last fairy that you pitch out of your hand for ultimateness. And if you're playing the second Herald, then you could just normal summon it on the turn 3 and then send another Herald to add the Draconids, which is like your OTK piece. And then it turns on all the Drytrons in your grave. 1 Beatrice, it's a combo piece. You use it to send Eva on your opponent's turn and one on your turn. And in some combos, you can send cards like Ultimateness or like the missing Drytron. The Zeus package, one Zeus, one Downerd. Some people are not playing Downerd. I think the second Downerd is almost mandatory because you want to be able to Zeus on like because I'm playing the Mystic Mine. You want to be able to Zeus on your turn and then have another Zeus on your opponent's turn. And then you play 2 copies of Mubeda Fafnir. This is the other new card that came out in Lightning Overdrive. It's arguably more important than Diviner. It's really good. It takes 2 level 1s, and on summon it foolishes a Drytron. And then instead of sending Drytrons to the grave to ritual summon, you can just detach materials in order to ritual summon, which is broken. So it's a card that allows you to ritual summon basically for free. The card basically pays for itself in ritual summons, the material that you would otherwise be using to ritual summon. And then its bonus effect that you only get to use if you're playing the Draken is during your opponent's turn, if you control a Drytron, a machine ritual, basically, you can detach and exceed materials to negate a spell or trap. So in certain hands where you get drolled, you're able to end on a Fafnir with one exceeds material plus the Draconids, and you basically have a send 2, so like a Dryden pop 2, and you can negate a spell or trap. So some people don't know that and will just like play into it, but even if they do know, it's still a spell and trap negate plus a double send, which is pretty powerful. Then for links, we have 2 link 4s. We have Appaloosa and Borisword. Borisword over access code because with ultimateness plus access code, that's only 7,300 damage, where in a lot of the situations you also have enough material to make Borisword, and then Borisword plus ultimateness is just game. Pretty much exact. Like it might be like a little over 1 IP. This is a card that you end on in almost all your combos to go into an Appaloosa or Unicorn during your opponent's turn. Phoenix and Unicorn, these are my nightmares that I decided to play. The one card that I cut for the second Herald was 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus. Cerberus did come up in my game against Cormac. He opted to leave his Zeus in the main monster zone a couple times, and if I was playing Cerberus, I definitely could have punished him for that. I was definitely playing Cerberus until a day before the actual event. But other than that, the card never really came up, and it was fine. In the 1 link Creeble, you need it for Nova, and all your Drytrons will.
Looking through the side deck, it looks like it's somewhat standard. However,
Yeah.
you are playing talents, which some people are kind of like steering away from that. Mind control's pretty nice, and then Natasha. Would you like to explain those cards?
So 3 talents, 1 mind control, and 1 Natasha. Like when you're going second in pretty much every matchup, there are certain cards that you could side out to play around draw. Like usually going second, you side out to 3 emergencies, 1 copy of the ritual spell, and the Fafnir. So that's those 5 immediately off the rip. And then depending on the matchup, if you're playing against a deck like Pure Zoo, you're siding out the 3 Mystic Minds in the Metaverse for the Harpies and the 3 Lightning Storms. But basically, the 3 talents, the Mind Control and the Natasha, are really insane cards going second. I don't think Natasha's needed in the main because the deck doesn't have a problem killing if you're playing Draconids, and like it's only really super strong going second. And Mind Control and Natasha almost serve the same purpose. Like in the Pure Zoo matchup, you can just take their Xyz and then make a Zeus on top of it. And then Talents is just really good because pretty much every deck is siding in hand traps against you, which are going to be used during their main phase, in addition to the interruptions that they just have on the board. And you're basically just like drawing cards or like snatching Xyz to make Zeus. So yeah, that's pretty much the deck. I was really pleased with it. I had a great time in this tournament. It was on the smaller side of LCSs, but it was really fun. A lot of high profile players and a lot of great competition.
Yes, of course. The LCS events are nice for the online format aspect. A lot of tough competition out there, getting the ultimate prize, which is most likely cash money.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, this is the only Drytron player deck profile that made it in top 16, so congrats on that, Jib.
Thanks. Appreciate being on the channel, and of course, suffer Bortle.
Oh,
God,
God.
yes.
Oh, God, yes. Yes, listeners, if you're not part of Bortle Nation, sub for Bortle. It's that easy and it's free. Oh, God, yes. Until next time, Bortle out.